This may be the most traffic you see in Portland for the next week and a half.
Yes, it's the calm before the storm, literally.
Yeah, I think once next week hits, yeah, it's going to shut down everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's Portland. We can't handle an inch of snow. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. This is our daily show here from Digital Trends, where we talk about the trending tech topics of the day, bring you interviews, bring you news, all while broadcasting live across all of our different platforms, Periscope, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, all of those right now. You can drop in your comments and questions too, and we will absolutely get to those as we go throughout the show. Let's talk about what's on tap for today. We have a really good show lined up for you. So surprise, surprise. I know every day is a good show, but maybe this is the best show that's ever happened. So here we go. We've got, coming up in just a little bit, we're going to be joined by Skye Fitzgerald. Skye is a director, a filmmaker. His latest film, his documentary called Lifeboat, is nominated for an Oscar in these upcoming Oscars. He's going to be in here to talk about that and talk about what it took to make this film. Really excited to have him on board. We've got Gerard Adams, who is the founder of Elite Daily and the current founder and CEO of a company called Founders. So a lot of founder talk coming up. But Gerard is going to be joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler, and here right now in studio, it is Nicole Rainey. Hello, Nicole.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I was referencing just the beginning to make sure that it's clear. Portland is supposed to be getting a snowstorm that comes in here. This is nothing compared to the rest of the country, but just giving you a heads up that that's happening. It tends to shut the city down. We should still be broadcasting because that shouldn't have any effect on us next week, but just giving you that little bit of a maybe there's a chance.
Some context.
Some context.
And
for
if the
that.
city doesn't shut down, I probably will.
Yeah, well,
I don't know how to handle it.
That's true. You're from Texas. Yeah, this is going to be a nightmare for you. But let's talk about some headline news. And I think there's no way we can get around this. We have to bring this up and discuss the Jeff Bezos situation that happened yesterday. I'm sure most people are aware of what's going on with it, but just to kind of bring you up to date, Jeff Bezos has accused the National Enquirer and their parent company, American Media Incorporated, of blackmail, of extortion. So essentially, the baseline to kind of sum up everything that's gone on. So Jeff Bezos made a public blog post on Medium talking about and outlining what is going on with him, to where essentially some representatives from AMI are threatening to release pictures of him. We'll just say
illicit pictures.
Illicit pictures, thank you. Pictures that he had sent back and forth with Laura Sanchez, and the bottom line is they're threatening to send out these pictures. He is saying, I am not going to stand up for that. They wanted him to release a statement, basically a political statement, that he in no way as AMI but doing anything or that they reported in any way because of coercion, because of politicians. And he said no. And he made a public post about it and said, look, here's the deal. You may see some pictures of me. They have these. Here's what I'm outlining. Here's what they said to me. And here's why I'm standing up to it. And what he said is, I'm standing up to it basically because if somebody in his position as the richest man in the world can still fall victim to this, then there's really no stopping this kind of extortion and this kind of hacking and how this all works. I think, personally, it's great.
I think this sounds like the episode of like a daytime political drama.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many layers. There's the National
Yeah.
Enquirer. There's a representative for the parent company whose name is actually David Pecker.
That's true.
It literally includes the richest man in the world. Like this,
Yeah.
It sounds too fake.
Sounds like a Lifetime movie.
But I have to say, kudos to Jeff Bezos. Like he just
Yeah.
stood up to them. He's like, nah, it's fine. Literally gave the entire world a heads up that they may see something that they don't want to see.
Yeah.
And he's going to be okay with it. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm as okay as you could be in that kind of position.
Right.
I don't want to make light of.
No.
Because having those kinds of photos shared is definitely not okay. And I can only imagine the emotional toll that it takes on somebody.
Absolutely. I mean, he's somebody who's going through a divorce already, impartially because of all that. I mean, on the personal side, sounds like it's kind of a mess that he's got going on right there. Also, I think there's a couple of points, other points too, to take away from it. One, just that on that personal side, it is interesting that the richest man in the world still sends pictures like that via text message, but also how did they get those? And that's something that hasn't been revealed yet. We don't know, and that's something he was investigating. That's how this all came out originally, is that he was trying to find out how they got access to his personal private text messages. And we still don't have the answer to that. And I feel like that's going to be a big story that's going to, some big fallout that's going to come from this, is how did they get this? And how are they accessing that? And who gave this information? Because somebody had to give access to that. And I feel like that's something that any of us really could be victim to. You know, and we're not going to get the kind of publicity that Jeff Bezos has. You know, he's somebody who can actually stand up to it, at least say, yep, here it is. This is what's going on, and I'm not going to take it.
The best quote, I think, from his blog post, and one that we've included on our site on Digital Trends, he said rather than like succumb to the blackmail, he would, quote, prefer to stand up, roll this log over, and see what crawls out.
Yeah. Hey.
He did not hold any punches.
No, he's not holding any punches, and he's going directly at them. And you know, you wonder how much of this goes on as normal par for the course for this kind, especially when you're somebody in that kind of position. You know, how many people have been blackmailed by this? Clearly, this isn't the first time that this has happened. You know they've done this a lot before. It's just nobody's actually called it out.
Yeah.
Taking a look here on YouTube, I just saw a comment. Danger450 says, another reason to love Bezos when an extortion attempt is made on the richest man on the planet. Normal people never stand a chance. Good on him. Won't likely change much in the future, though. And I don't know.
I mean, it might.
It could.
You know, he has the power and the resources to shed some light on these kinds of issues.
That he does. Yeah, he definitely has the power and resources to work on this. So I think it's good that he's standing up to this, and that's kind of where my stance is on it. And I think
more importantly, though, if you watch Digital Trends Live pretty regularly, you'll know that Greg and I have an ongoing billionaire brawl bracket.
We do.
Which mainly includes Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Richard Branson.
Yeah.
So I've been usually backing Branson, but I think I'm gonna
You've
have
been
to go
a big
Bezos.
Branson supporter
Yeah,
in this.
I'm going Bezos now. Like
This is enough to flip.
extra points for him. He's the number one seed right now. We're not saying that they actually need to fight. We're just imagining them in various situations in which
But
they
if the
have
three
to
of them,
compete.
got in a ring,
Yeah.
and got to bring their own tech, to battle each other too.
Jeff Bezos for sure now.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos, wow, rocketing up.
He's got
Nicole's
some
charts.
guts. He's got some guts. Obviously, he's not afraid to stand up. So
Number one
he's
in the
number
power
one.
rankings. Wow. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with Elon next. So we'll go there. One other thing, though, some breaking news actually about Amazon, and we're going to get to our Read 'em and Weep segment. This is actually just coming out right now. So beyond the Jeff Bezos side, you can read all about that at digitaltrends.com. We've got running, as information gets updated, we'll have that article updated. But this is just coming out right now. So as you know, Amazon had that huge thing to launch their new headquarters, a second headquarters. It ended up getting split between Crystal City, Virginia, and New York. I think in particular, I believe it was Queens is where it was going. Yeah, Queens. And there's been a lot of backlash in New York about Amazon coming in there. What ostensibly was going to happen is they were going to bring in 25,000 jobs, at least according to Amazon, and kind of redo a whole section of that of Queens. And now there's been so much backlash that Amazon is reporting they're reconsidering their entire plan to bring the campus to New York, which could have a lot of ramifications. And I'm not going to pretend to know all the ins and outs of the Queens neighborhood or the New York politics that go into it or what their issues are. I know part of it is that Amazon gets a lot of, these big businesses, they get a lot of incentives, they get a lot of tax breaks, and I think there's people upset about that. But the bigger picture, if Amazon can't put a plant in New York, where does it go?
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of layers to unpack here.
Yeah.
I mean, is Virginia still on the table?
It sounds like Virginia still is. There's a tax incentive there that from what I'm reading, looks like that's going to pass. So the Virginia side would still be there. But if they leave New York, I mean, this was a huge bidding war for cities all across really North America. I mean, Canadian, everybody. And if they're going to leave New York, if they can't do business in New York, what kind of ramifications does this have for the city? What kind of ramifications does this have? Like, where are they going to take these 25,000 jobs now? Like, what's going to go on with that?
And there's a lot of concerns, too, about what the impact of something like that is on a city.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, New York seems like it's a bigger city. It's already pretty expensive. There's already a lot of people there. There's already a lot of jobs there. And so adding that onto the map of New York didn't seem like too much of an impact, but there's no other city like New York in the United States or North America.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that, like you said, those thousands of jobs would impact a smaller city.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see. That's definitely a developing story, but I mean, it's something that Amazon has now said publicly. Maybe that's a negotiating tactic that it could very well be. But there's a lot that's going to go on there too. So, and that's just breaking right now. I'm sure we'll have an article up at digitaltrends.com about that as we find out. But this just posted. conveniently on the Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos. So I wonder how they got the scoop. But that's kind of just the two kind of double hitters there that we had for Amazon just coming right out of the gate. All right, let's go on to our Read 'em and Weep segment now. We're going to come back to some tech headlines here in a minute. But taking a look at some of the comments that have come through across our various social media platforms, because yes, we do read the comments here at Digital Trends, and sometimes they make us weep. I try not to weep on camera, but you never know. You can't really control that sometimes. Let's see what the people have to say for these comments. And I will emphasize too, you can keep your comments coming through here as we're doing this. All right, Dreamweaver. Regarding AMD Radeon 7 review, the new flagship video card to buy. So this is something that this card just came out. The review just came out, I believe, yesterday, and it says, "How can you make tech videos and call it an RTX 280 the entire time?" RIP Digital Trends.
Ooh.
Wow. The
That's
RTX
bold.
280.
Not as bold as Jeff Bezos, but still pretty bold.
Yeah, very bold. I believe it was, I haven't seen the video, but I know Matt and Luke were both here on Digital Trends Live yesterday talking about this card, and I'm pretty sure they're just making comparisons to the RTX 280 and discussing that. But apparently it's RIP DT, so
Well,
I didn't know. That was the breaking point.
is this the last show?
That this apparently this was it. We didn't know. Well, thanks Dreamweaver for the heads up. I guess we'll continue going on with the show today because I don't know what else to do. But thank you, Dreamweaver. All right, let's go on to our next comment here, and take a look at what the people have to say. Brandon Brennan, excellent name. Regarding these tunnels could deliver supplies, groceries, and more straight to your living room. So this is talking about different underground tunnel deliveries. For delivering products in cities. Wow, think you are controlled now. Wait till you can't get groceries because you've got to pay your internet bill. So I think it's ordering things on the internet that would be delivered through tunnels.
Well, my point here is these tunnels are replacing traditional methods of getting to the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
So you won't be able to not get groceries. You'll just have to leave your house to get groceries.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
that's really kind of what it is. But I don't think Brandon Brennan wants to leave the house. So
Yeah.
I think he's okay. Yeah. Well, Brandon Brennan, I am sorry. Hopefully you'll be okay, but and you won't be controlled. By the way, controlling. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna have some discussions on that. What are we looking at here? Okay, this is the grocery delivery system right here. So it's kind of like the it's literally a series of tubes underneath the ground that would send things directly to your house. That seems like a lot of infrastructure to build out.
Yeah.
For this. But I mean, I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I also have no problem with walking to the grocery store either. So I feel like it's a win-win.
Yeah, see, it works out for everybody. All right. Brandon Brennan, thank you for your comment going through here as we take a look at our various comments for him. Read them and weep. All right. Bored Silly, regarding this is a drone umbrella that's hands-free and follows you around while it rains. Until Gale Force wins, robs you of it, they can then make a movie about its quest to find home.
I'm for this. I
For the
think
movie
this is a
or
great
for the drone?
Both.
Okay.
You know, I've seen this technology on Digital Trends, so it seems like it's pretty interesting. Not necessarily something I would want to use.
Yeah.
But I like the idea. But if it's going to be something that we're going to see a movie about eventually, I'm 100% on board.
Oh yeah, throw some AI in there, and we got a real like homeward bound kind of situation.
Yeah,
Then
brave little toaster. There's a lot.
Yeah.
It works. Finding Nemo.
Yeah, I mean, you can have the umbrella, and then I think one of those suitcases that follows you around.
Yeah.
Like the suitcase and the umbrella get separated at
There
the
you
airport.
go.
And they have to find each other, and then a drone like carries a bigger drone, like swoops in, their big buddy, and carries them.
I like
Yeah.
it.
All right,
Coming
well,
to theaters near you in 2020.
we've got a filmmaker coming in here in a few minutes. We'll pitch this to him. That's what the entire interview is going to be. We're just going to make that pitch. All right, so thank you, Bored Silly, for your comment here for Read 'em and Weep. All right, and let's take a look here. Oh, boy.
That's a
I
lot.
have not read this. I know everybody's reading it right now. I can already tell you this is going to be a lot to unpack, and it's going to change your life. Bobo Norco, regarding how 5G will change your smartphone and your life in 2019. I believe the world had a disaster due to technology thousands of years ago. We didn't end up here by a big bang or any other ideas they want us to believe. Something nuclear happened between nations in a race for better tech arms race, and we're repeating the same situation all over again. Okay.
Okay, so
Nicole,
it's nothing to do with
first
5G.
take. No. No. Not
Let's
that
break
I
it
can
down.
tell.
So there was no big bang.
Okay, so there was no big bang. Or any other ideas they want us to believe.
Okay, I don't know who they is.
Not
but
sure either. but they are always coming after me and trying to steal my thoughts. So I understand that.
So he's saying, Bobo's saying,
Bobo, yes.
there was no Big Bang, there was some sort of nuclear disaster or fallout.
Yes.
And we are just repeating that.
The same thing all over again, Nicole, obviously. I mean, so I never knew that I would be enlightened by someone named Bobo, but Bobo, thank you. I mean, you're going to go down in history as one of these people that actually made a difference, and I'm certainly going to be researching this.
Yeah, and 5G is obviously the next step towards the biggest. Second biggest disaster?
Second biggest. I don't know. Maybe it'll be bigger.
I have so many questions.
So many questions. Bobo, we'll have to get you on the show to discuss this in further detail. All right. One last one here, or one or two more, I believe. We've got Grant Marshall regarding crypto exchange founder dies with sole password, leaving $190 million locked up. This is true. We've got this story at Digital Trends. We talked about it on DT Live. I picture this guy limping, slowly walking briskly, walking out of an internet cafe in the Maldives, stepping directly into a luxury automobile en route to a private airport, never to be seen again.
Love it.
You ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Yeah. So, Grant, excellent comment. I feel like there's something more to that story too. There's a movie out of that.
So many conspiracy theories right now.
A lot of conspiracy
theories. And one really
theories.
great movie idea.
Conspiracy Fridays. That's it. That's what we're branding these from now on. All right, let's take a look. We've got time here for just a couple more tech headlines before we have our guest who's going to be joining us, and that's Sky Fitzgerald to talk about his documentary, Lifeboat. Let's see here. So here's something talking about deliveries. And I know for a lot of us, we have started incorporating more like Uber deliveries and Postmates. A lot of them have cropped up. And there's one called Instacart. And Instacart is one in Silicon Valley. So it's an upstart that delivers groceries and other household items to customers through an app. So we all know how that works. But here's something that's coming out about this. And they're having to make a public statement rescinding one of their policies. And I'm curious, because I want to know from you, Nicole, like how you handle the tipping side of things when it comes down to deliveries. But what Instacart apparently has been doing to their employees, their delivery drivers, is when you tip them, that tip is then just taken off of the hourly wage that the employee gets. So like, oh, well, yeah, so the company is paying themselves back, and the delivery driver is not getting any of the tip.
100% a tip should go to the person who's providing you the service.
Yeah.
Not the company who's supporting the service.
Yeah. Yeah.
It always goes to the person.
It should. And it's ridiculous that it was going that way. And Instacart has now come out and said, oh, yeah, we heard you. There was a misguided policy. It's like, no, you kind of tried to rip off your employees. Somebody came up with that policy.
To their defense, though, they heard people out and then they took the policy away. So people are now getting their tips directly to them. So it's not like being filtered through Instacart, right?
And you're right. I mean, I guess they did do, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but at the same time, that's pretty lame.
But I think the whole gig economy is something that's obviously like really prevalent, but we haven't really mapped out that territory as well yet either. Because there's tons of people who, do have these gigs set up with like they're driving with Uber and Lyft, or they're working with Instacart or other delivery services, and we haven't really quite figured out what the best way is to. For people who that is their career, that is their sole job right now, like how do you support them and make sure that they're getting the best from the company?
Yeah.
Because I think when we set these kinds of things up, we weren't necessarily thinking, oh, people are going to be doing this all the time. It was always kind of billed as like a side gig.
Right. It's like, oh yeah.
But some people do this all the time.
Cash. Yeah.
And so this, losing however many dollars off their paycheck because the Instacart was taking it away, taking away their tips basically. It's unfair, but there wasn't really a precedent for that.
There's not a lot of policy, and you're absolutely right on that. I mean, that's the thing. Like, how do you tip when you get a delivery? Because what I usually try to do is if I have cash, like on a ride, I tip through the app. If somebody is showing up to my house, I try to tip cash, just because I figure then whatever's going on, I can just skip the whole.
Yeah, because it's going directly to the person.
Yeah, it's going directly to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that you're right. I think we're all trying to figure this out right now.
But then
there's also people that don't tip.
That's also subverting the system, though, too. If you're just giving them cash, because that's not as easily trackable when you're talking about pay stubs and things like that.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the right way is to do it, but I don't know if, and maybe somebody out there is wiser, and maybe you're a delivery driver. Maybe you can let us know like what you prefer. Because honestly, I would really like to know, to sit down and talk to somebody who does this more as like a living and doing different deliveries. Whether it's, I mean, driving Uber and Lyft, I kind of get that, but as far as the delivery side of it, what do you prefer? Like, what's the best policy to help support the driver? Because ultimately, I think that's what people want to do. But I don't think people know how to do it.
And we still have a long way to go because the only thing we can kind of base it on is maybe like the food and drink industry. And right now in America, diners and drinkers support those people in those positions.
Yeah.
Because tips a lot of times, like you don't necessarily get paid like really high wages because the company or the business knows that they're going to be earning tips on the side.
Yeah.
So we sort of like support these incomes.
Yeah.
And I say we, like, you just like collectively, our society helps support these incomes rather than like the business.
Well, yeah, it's a lot to unpack and figure out. And you're right, with the gig economy, the more things that are going on like this, the more we start getting deliveries in this fashion. It's something that's going to have to be worked out.
But good on Instacart.
Yeah,
for
good on
rolling
Instacart.
back that policy.
Absolutely. Let me check here. I just want to make sure that we have where we're at on time, if our guest has arrived, and if we are going to be going to our interview right now. Okay, so we got a little bit of time, so we're going to do another story. So everybody who's watching live, thank you for tuning in. Keep dropping in your comments and questions. Coming up here in just a little bit, we're going to have Sky Fitzgerald in here to talk about his movie, and then Gerard Adams to talk about Founders in a little bit as well on digital trends. Here's something that I think is really cool. Since it's Friday, I kind of take a little bit of liberty to talk about some emerging technology that we don't normally get to talk about. And I thought this was really, really cool, especially for anybody, if you know anybody who has diabetes, in particular type 2 diabetes. I mean, it's a real pain. You have to give the shots, you have to deal with that, and it's a really, it's a traumatic thing, and it's also a real pain just going through normal life because you always have to worry about that. Well, there's a better way possibly being invented by MIT, and it's a pill. Basically a pill that you would take and be able to skip doing the injections. And the way it works is really, really pretty incredible what they've come up with. So they're capsules that you take, and these capsules are then within them have a tiny little, what would you call it? I guess excuse me, I want to make sure that I get it right. A small needle. So we'll say it's a small needle. And the way that it works is this thing goes into the stomach lining. You take this pill. The way it's designed is that, and there's a little bit further in the video, I think like a minute or so in, there's a little bit more of it, but the way the pill is designed is it can write itself in there, and then it inserts the insulin into your system. So there's an example.
It's a really neat concept because we're basically saying that we could potentially do away with like the dermal injections.
Yeah.
But you're still getting injected in your stomach.
You are still getting injected. I guess you're right.
Yeah, but you
You're
wouldn't feel it. That's the argument that MIT is making, is be more convenient, less painful.
Less painful, and you just take a pill, and then it doles out. It's highly regulated as far as when it releases. Like there's a timed release. They said they even took into account so it doesn't go into your esophagus or anything like that. It waits till it's in the stomach and injects it out over a certain amount of time. Yeah, there's the image I was thinking of. So they designed it based off this turtle, an actual turtle, and how that turtle can right itself no matter what. And so it would constantly right itself in your stomach. It would inject it into your lining. Presumably you wouldn't even really feel that at all. And then time it out, and then that's it. You just take your pill, however many times a day you're supposed to. That part I don't know. But I think that sounds way better.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, way more convenient. Something that's just easier to do for people with diabetes, and that's, I don't know. I think it's a really cool invention.
And it's all biodegradable too.
Biodegradable. Yep, it just flushes out of your system. That's it. I think anytime that you find something like technology developing something that's good for people, especially medical technology, that stuff's really exciting for me because that's what makes people's lives literally better. I mean, you are going to be healthier, possibly, because of this.
And more convenient too.
And more convenient, yeah. And even if it's down to just a convenience issue. But that kind of stuff is very cool. So exciting to read about, and you can check that out at Digital Trends as well. So I believe, are we going to a break right now? All right, we're going to take a break. I want to thank Nicole for being in here for this top of the show. Thank you.
I love Conspiracy and Emerging Tech Fridays.
I know. I kind of like this theme for Fridays. It's pretty fun. And you can read about everything that we're talking about at digitaltrends.com as well. But we've got lots for you coming up. In just a couple of moments, we have an Oscar nominee who's going to be here in studio, Sky Fitzgerald, to talk about his movie Lifeboat. It's a really, really incredible story, and we're going to talk all about that. So stick around here, drop in your comments, your questions. We'll be back in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you everyone for tuning in wherever you find us. We're live every weekday, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you all kinds of tech headlines and great interviews, and that's what we have right now. I'm very excited to introduce an Oscar nominee. Your latest film, Lifeboat, your documentary, up for an Oscar. It's a really, really interesting tale. We're going to get into it. It basically follows a German nonprofit that aids refugees trying to cross the Mediterranean. And it's Sky Fitzgerald with us right now.
Thanks, pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for being in here. You know, I have to say, I don't know if you could pick a more intense topic than this.
Yeah, it's definitely a story that the stakes are very high. It's a triage operation that we embedded in, and so it was an intense experience being out there and also filming the story, as you might imagine.
I can only imagine out there on that. You know, we're going to play the trailer here in just a minute too to give a little bit more context for everybody who's watching right now. But maybe if you can walk through just what your motivation was for this. Why did you choose this subject?
Yeah, so you know, my colleagues and I had filmed another project. We're doing a refugee trilogy of films, and we filmed another project called 50 Feet from Syria on the Syrian-Turkish border. And on the tail end of that project, there were a bunch of doctors and humanitarian workers who told us that as soon as the EU closed the border into Greece, that the refugee flow would shift because they couldn't get in through Greece anymore, and that it would probably shift to the central Mediterranean, and that there would be a very high mortality rate because the EU simply wasn't prepared for that kind of influx of people trying to cross that body of water. And so we drilled down on that and started to do some due diligence and found that the numbers were already staggering, that there were thousands of people drowning trying to make that crossing, and that there were simultaneously these small little civil society interventions where little NGOs had sprouted up to literally go out and just pull people from the ocean, and that was inspiring to us.
Wow. And so you found one particular group that you went with?
We did. We went with a German, Berlin-based NGO called Sea-Watch, made up completely of volunteers who had banded together and purchased a retrofitted research vessel, and of their own volition, because the EU wasn't responding fast enough, had motored down into this area off the coast of Libya and was literally pulling people off rafts before they drowned. And we found them really a wonderful, nimble group who was doing it for all the right reasons, certainly not for money or for attention.
Wow. Well, let's take a look at the trailer just to give a little bit more context for everybody watching, and then we're going to come back and discuss this a little bit more and drop in your comments and questions too if you have any. Let's go ahead and roll that.
We found another rubber boat, 012 degrees. Is there another one, Joe? Yeah,
People are risking their lives to sail from North Africa to Europe.
Sank less than 10 miles off Libya.
Migrants were fleeing poverty and war.
3 shipwrecks in just 3 days.
Only a handful survived.
Don't jump! Stay on the boat! Stay on the boat!
Et quand j'ai su, j'ai dit non, il y a deux cas soit la vie et la mort.
I mean, that's a lot to digest just right there, and taking a look at that. Talking about the filmmaking process. So you get onto this, was it one particular ship that you were on the entire time?
Yeah, we were on a single 30-meter vessel, which was the only vessel that Sea-Watch had at the time operating in the area. So it was a small boat with 16 crew people.
16 crew people on there. And how many of your crew? How many were there?
You know, one of the most difficult aspects of creating a film like this in a genuine triage situation is gaining access, right?
Yeah.
Especially because, you know, people are dying, and this group is intervening to try to save as many as possible. So talking our way onto the boat was a big part of the pre-production, and eventually I was able to convince this group that 2 of us could get on as long as we sort of straddled that line between humanitarian, human being, and filmmaker. And so there were 2 of the 16 were actually us, myself and my colleague Kenny Allen, who was the DP.
So you were really, I mean, you were in the thick of it.
Absolutely.
In the middle of this.
Yeah.
That is got to be a very difficult line to balance when you're filming something like this. Like, at what point do you step back and capture the moment that's happening in front of you, and at what point, just as a human being, you want to be like jump into the middle of it, and then maybe you're in the way, or maybe you're not in the way. I mean, how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, actually. It was a very real balance and delicate dance that we were doing the entire time. So, on the second day of our search and rescue operation, Sea-Watch encountered over 3,000 people over the course of 3 days floating in the middle of the ocean. And initially, we were the only search and rescue boat in the area.
Wow.
And we're a 30-meter vessel. So, when you launch the Zodiacs to do that initial triage work, which the first step is always get people life preservers, right, life vests, so that if the raft goes down, at least people are on the water and they're not going to drown. But, because the boats are so overloaded, people are being pushed off, they're jumping off, they're falling off. And as a filmmaker, right, you're filming all this, but some of these people who are pushed off the boats can't swim. And so over and over again, Kenny and I, my DP, were faced with this existential question, do you film someone drown in front of you?
Yeah.
Or do you put your camera down and do you pull them out of the ocean? And so early on, we were faced with that, and over again, we would simply just put our cameras down and help pull people out of the ocean, and we felt that was the only choice we could make.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you would even handle something like that. I mean, that's incredible alone. Let me ask you this: creating this, what do you hope that people get from this documentary?
That question comes up a lot, but if there were a single thing, I would say empathy, because I think we live in a day and age where it's really easy to create barriers around ourselves, to see people as others, whether it's because they're on the other side of some sort of border, or because they're of a different religion, or because of a different sexual orientation. I think the more we build empathy, the more we can understand each other fuller and live with compassion and on humanitarian principles. And so that's our intent with this project, is to build empathy. I
think you're doing a great job with that. I think you're right, that compartmentalization that people tend to do, it's either whatever the causes of it are. I think the solution is definitely more education, more exposure to things like this, and just being aware that these situations are happening in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Humans are dealing with this. These are people who are going through that, and you're doing a great job of spreading that. Let me ask a couple other questions too. I wanted to bring up the Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
Like, what was that like? How does that process go? How are you notified that you're nominated for an Oscar?
Well, it's interesting. I've learned a lot through this process, as you might imagine. We were fortunate enough to be blessed with being shortlisted 3 years ago with the first film of this trilogy we're doing, and so this time we made it one step further to the nomination. And so when you're shortlisted, which means you get down to the last 10 films in contention, then they send you an email, usually, right? And so then you have this email, and you're, oh, that's pretty cool, right? To be recognized by your peers at the top of their game in that way, it's an honor, right? For the nomination, you do eventually receive that email, but actually what they do is they do a live stream at 5:20 in the morning, Pacific Coast time. So everyone who's been shortlisted is pretty much up watching this live stream from the Academy, and then this year it was 2 live hosts, and then they literally spoke them and put them up on the screen at the same time.
I didn't realize that's actually how you found out too.
Yeah, everyone finds out at the same time. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
In my pajamas in the basement.
Well, congratulations. I mean, it's an incredible honor, and the Academy Awards, they're coming up later this month, right?
The 24th.
24th, okay.
Yeah.
So you said that this is the second in a trilogy. I have to ask, what's the next?
Well, I wish I could answer that fully. I know the answer to that, but it's a very delicate story, and
fair enough.
Until we have everything locked down, I don't really want to go into too much detail, but we do intend to shoot it in the latter half of 2019.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I mean, what you're doing is really, really incredible. I mean, I want to emphasize that. How can people watch the movie? Where can they go to find it?
Well, fortunately, we licensed it to The New Yorker several weeks ago, so it's streaming free in North America on the New Yorker website. So you can literally go to their screening room on newyorker.com and watch the whole thing.
That's great. So you can go there, take a look at it at the New Yorker. Anything else that you want people to know about the film that you would want people to know that are watching it as they're going into it for the first time?
Yeah, don't watch it with your 5-year-old,
Yeah.
but 8 is probably okay.
Okay.
But I think, our intent in making this, as I mentioned earlier, was empathy. So I would say share it widely, and then hopefully it will provoke conversations around sort of our current rhetoric surrounding refugees and asylum seekers, because we live in a day and age where we're facing the greatest human tragedy in many generations surrounding displaced people in the world. And I think until we start talking about it actively with compassion and with people we may not necessarily align with perfectly politically, we're never going to solve it.
Yeah.
So have those conversations, be willing to go there, and I think that's how we change things in the long run.
And I think that human viewpoint is something that should cross any political boundary.
Yeah, absolutely.
That shouldn't have anything to do with it. Well, Skye, thank you for coming in here to talk about this. Thanks for doing this work. You're out there actually spreading information and helping people learn about this. And great job, and congratulations on the Oscar.
Yeah.
I'll be rooting for you.
Thank you.
So definitely on that. And thank you everybody for tuning in to Digital Trends Live. We really appreciate everybody who's watching this show. Like I said, live every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and we'll be back here in just a minute with Gerard Adams to have an interview with him about his company. Keep watching. Back in a second with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Live broadcasting every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Hit subscribe wherever you find us to make sure you get the updates when we do go live. And we're very excited right now to bring you another interview. I'm Greg Nibbler, and we're going to be joined right now by Gerard Adams. Gerard is the CEO and founder of World Class Leader, in addition to a billion other companies that it seems like that you've started and run before. But Gerard, thank you so much for joining us.
A pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, you are obviously so accomplished. You've been the winner of Magic Johnson's 32 Under 32 award. You've been listed by Business Insider among the top 100 most influential people in Silicon Valley. That's a pretty good accomplishment right there. So let's talk about this company that you've got right now, World Class Leaders. What is this one?
Yeah. So basically, right now we're helping to allow entrepreneurs, influencers, coaches to go out there and build the business of them, build a personal brand. Because really we live in a time where I feel, I have a media background. I, come from starting Elite Daily, and prior to that, I've been doing content creation for about 15 years now. And I think there's never been a better time for us to be the individual to really become the media platform ourselves. That's why you see so many of these influencers out there that are going out and, they're building these businesses around them just being their authentic selves. So, we're helping a lot of leaders out there to be able to help tell their story to the world so they can make a bigger impact.
That's an interesting kind of brand of entrepreneurship, taking a look at that, as like creating yourself almost as the product, or you're the brand and then everything else kind of comes after that. Like, how does that process work?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I kind of look at, some of the people I looked up to growing up. I think of Jay-Z when he said, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman," or and then, it's just an interesting time. I mean, for a long time, I was an entrepreneur behind the scenes building businesses, and I was really understanding and just learning the business. But it was until having the exit that I really felt a calling. And I think that our planet needs it, like humanity needs it, like people, they need inspiration. They need to hear from, different messengers out there telling their story and helping them to overcome, whatever limiting beliefs that they're going through, whatever doubt they're going through. And there's a lot of just really powerful leaders in the world that are doing amazing work behind the scenes. And I think that's fantastic. I was one of them, but there's such a huge difference that they can make by starting to just share their story. And I firsthand started, testing that out over the past 3 years, documenting my journey with founders, going back to an inner city and, doing a lot of social impact initiatives, speaking all over the world, and just starting to share my story, where in the past as an entrepreneur, I never thought I was worthy. I never thought I was good enough. Me growing up the way I did, multicultural, like I just never really ever thought that, anybody really cared about my story. So I always stayed behind the scenes, being an entrepreneur, building my businesses. And then once I kind of overcame that limiting belief, people I saw were so impacted by my show, Leaders Create Leaders, by me just sharing through social media. And it's made a huge difference in my community. It's given me fulfillment. And then I started realizing that I was doing it in the wrong order. And obviously I was creating a lot of impact, but I started realizing, well, I got to treat this like a business, right? Like I can't just create an expensive hobby and fund it through my other businesses. Like if I'm going to do this, then let me understand the business of it, because at the end of the day, I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm still an entrepreneur. So I started and I created a strategy called the MAP. And the M teaches people how to first get clear on how to monetize their expertise, like who it is they're trying to serve in the world, getting very clear as who that person is, so they can build their community around, that specific individual that they'll relate to, and helping them to understand how to create a program and offer. We call it an IPO, an irresistible profitable offer, and then how to create leads, the organic way and paid strategy to do that. And then we go into the A, which is amplify your message through the power of speaking. And that's where my partner, who's an expert, who's been on over 500 stages, I hired him as a speaking coach. We teach you how to create your signature story and understand how to use the power of public speaking. Whereas I was like insecure. I never thought that I could be a powerful speaker. I dropped out of college. I never really understood what it was like to be on stage in front of thousands of people. With his help now, I'm able to, whether I'm in a room with 50 people or 5,000 people, I understand how to tell that story powerfully for the audience. And then the P in the MAP is where I love to kind of come in, and that's how to promote your brand through growing a platform. I launched a show with my co-creator here in the back, Digital Jeff, called Leaders Create Leaders. And it's teaching people how now we live in a time now where you can literally launch a podcast this week. You can launch your own show on YouTube. You can leverage social media and Facebook, and you can start to leverage that platform to shine light on other, influential individuals, and as well tell your story through these platforms. And then that will allow you to truly create a movement around your message and to kind of somewhat become a celebrity leader in your industry. And if you follow this map consistently, you can really not only build a 7 to 8 figure business around you, but you can really make 7, 8 figure impact in the lives that you'll touch and change.
Interesting. I mean, that's a lot to unwrap right there. And so this is all part of your strategy with world-class leaders. So how do people get started in this? Where do they go? How do they get involved?
Yeah, well, I just ask people. I mean, I created a 5-page book that just gives this out for free. If people want the map, they want the strategy, and they basically can have it. And all you got, basically, I ask people to DM me. I want to, I'll send it to you. Go to my Instagram. That's my #1 platform where I'm very active with my community. If this interests you, Gerard Adams on Instagram, shoot me a DM, the map, and I'll send it over to you. But yeah, that's basically, that's how I give that away. And then basically, if you're interested in taking it further, I could just see if it's a good fit to work together.
Okay, so that's an interesting strategy on your own, right? So you're setting this out, and then if it looks like something that, if somebody's interested in going further, then you have the further discussions, then you talk about the business side of it.
because it's a commitment, right? Like we're
Right.
all busy. Everyone, right now they look at social media and it's like either you're going to get sucked in and you're caught looking on social media all day and you're pretty much like almost, just wasting time or just like filling in the gaps of your day commuting. But, if you could really commit to leveraging these tools that are free, you can really leverage that to make a difference, build your brand, and ultimately creates opportunities and relationships for your other businesses and for your network. So, but it's a commitment. So I can give you the strategy for free, but if you really want to actually implement it, that's a whole nother story of accountability that you need to put into place.
So it's Gerard Adams, excuse me, on Instagram. What other social media platforms do you use?
Yeah, so my show, we're shooting season 5 now. It's called Leaders Create Leaders. I travel the world in search of modern day leaders and tell their story of triumph, how they overcome adversity. We're launching episode 1 with Aubrey Marcus, an unbelievable spiritual leader, as well as a CEO of a company called On It, in March. And that's on YouTube. If you just go to youtube.com/Gerard Adams TV, or you can search for Leaders Create Leaders show on Facebook, and we have a watch page.
Fantastic. Well, Gerard, thank you for coming on here on the Digital Trends Live, talk about this platform. Sounds like you're really helping out a lot of people. I hope people take advantage of, some of your success, and it's nice that you're sharing it with others and sharing out this kind of map, the map strategy of how to do that. So DM Gerard Adams. Gerard, thank you so much for coming on Digital Trends Live.
Thank you.
All right, fantastic. This is the fun part of this show. So we're a daily show, every day, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, that you can tune into Digital Trends Live. This week, we've had so many different interviews, so many different topics, so many different tech headlines, all while broadcasting live. And I really want to take a second just to say thank you to everybody who's tuning in live. We really do appreciate it. But even if you're watching on demand, that's awesome too. So however you're finding us, we really do, like I said, appreciate that. To walk through just a little bit of what we talked about today, going back at the beginning, we had Nicole Rainey here in. We talked about Amazon, the whole Jeff Bezos thing. You probably know a lot about that at this point, but that's still an unraveling story, and you can check that out at digitaltrends.com. But also the breaking news that Amazon may be pulling out of New York. That new New York headquarters, it sounds like they're kind of deciding that they may not want that. So that's a breaking story that you can find at digitaltrends.com as well. Then, continuing on today, we had Sky Fitzgerald in to talk about his documentary Lifeboat, a very, very intense story. I highly suggest taking a look at that. He said that you can watch it for free at The New Yorker. Check out his interview just about behind the scenes of making something like that. And then right there, Gerard Adams talking about kind of making yourself your own brand and how you can do that. Coming up next week on Digital Trends Live, we have another action-packed week for you. Just a couple of examples. Julian Chikatu is going to be on Monday. He's our mobile editor to talk about the new Moto series of phones. Moto's making a comeback. We're going to be talking about that. We have Guy Kawasaki. Guy Kawasaki is going to be on Digital Trends Live. The author, the entrepreneur, you know the name. He's going to be joining us. And then later on in the week, we have Will from Robomotics, who they make a robotic AI head interface. I'm just going to leave that there. You figure out what that means. We're going to figure that out together next week right here on Digital Trends Live. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. I'm Greg Nibbler. We'll be back next week with more Digital Trends Live.